Hi there, welcome to this week's ESOL lesson for asylum seekers. I'm Judy, and this week our lesson is going to be all about tools. Tools that a workman or a workwoman or you or I can use to do jobs about the house. And in the UK, we have a special word. When we do things ourselves, we call it do it yourself. So the tools are often known as do it yourself tools or DIY, because D for do, I for it, and Y for yourself. And in shops, you will often see DIY, and that means there are things there that you can buy to help you do things yourself in the home. Okay, so I've got lots of things to show you today, and then I'm going to give you some questions, and I want you to work on those questions so that when you join with me for my Zoom lesson on Tuesday, we can go over those questions. If you can't join me for my Zoom lesson, then you can send me the answers, and I'll give you the email address at the end of this video. Okay, tools and do it yourself. This is where I keep my tools. It's called a toolbox. Toolbox, all one word. Toolbox. And it's where tools are kept. That's quite big, but if it was even bigger, it would be called a tool chest. But that's two words. But what I've got is a tool box. On the top of this toolbox, there is a handle. It's what I can carry it with. So there's the toolbox handle. And then this top is the lid. The lid. And these two yellow bits here, there are two separate compartments in there that I can keep things in. So two separate compartments that I can keep things in. And then holding the whole thing together, if I want to open it, I have to open these clasps. And I'm going to do that now. I have to pull it up like that, there, and that one, there, and that opens the lid. So now the lid is open. I'll show you those words, but I can't do it whilst I'm holding the toolbox. So, remember, there was a handle on the top of the toolbox that you carry the toolbox with. There was a lid on the top of the toolbox. The handle was on the lid. It's the lid that opens up. And in order to open the lid, you have to undo. I'll write that word on the board for you. You have to undo, sorry, that's a D, undo the lid. The lid. And you undo the lid with the clasps. You know, I pulled those up, the clasps. And the two things on the top of the lid were compartments. Okay, I've got my toolbox open and I'm going to show you some things. Ooh, first of all, I've taken this out of my toolbox. It's got something that fits on the top of the toolbox just inside. And this is, you can see, a tray. T-R-A-Y. Tray. And that's got a handle as well, like the lid had a handle. So the tray has a handle, and I keep some tools on the tray. And I'm going to show you some things that I keep on the tray. Let me turn my piece of paper over. Here we are. Here's the first thing I want to show you. There. That's one sort. And that's another sort. I wonder if anybody knows what they're called. Okay? Just in case you don't. What I've shown you were two screwdrivers. Screwdrivers. So this is a screwdriver and that is a screwdriver. Now, we use screwdrivers to screw things into wood. And this is the kind of thing that we use. This, you see that? There we are. That is a screw. And that's what we use. We put the screwdriver like that in there and then we screw it into the wood. So that's a screw and that's a screwdriver. We use them for screws. Now, just to get complicated, there are lots and lots of different sorts and sizes of screws that you can get. But there are two different sorts of things on the head. This is called the head of the screw. There's the head. And then this is the thread. Thread. Write that down for you. The thread is what makes it turn round. So this is the head of the screw. Now, if you look carefully at this video, you can see that this head has just got one line across it where the screwdriver fits in, like that. And we call that a slotted head screw or an ordinary screw. A slotted head screw. Slotted head screw. Look carefully at this one. You see, that one has a cross in it. And you have to use a different sort of screwdriver. That's the sort of screwdriver you have to use for this one. And it fits in like that. You can't use that sort of screwdriver on that sort of screw. So we call this screw with that sort of head a Phillips screw. I think it must be after somebody called Phillips. A Phillips screw. A Phillips head on that screw. Phillips head or a Phillips screw. And just to show you, here in this little tray, I've got lots and lots of different sorts of screws. You see them different lengths, different sizes, different heads. So if you're going to do some do-it-yourself, you need lots of screws. Here's my tray. I'm going to get something else out of it now. Now this is really dangerous. Here, I've got something else out of the tray. And this is a knife. Very, very sharp knife. And it's used in do-it-yourself to cut things. And I cover up that because it's so sharp. This is called a Stanley knife. A Stanley knife. Stanley knife. And actually Stanley is somebody's name in the UK, like John or Fred or Andrew. Stanley is a man's name. Stanley knife. And this part of the knife is called the blade. Blade. It's very, very sharp. I could easily cut myself on that. So I cover the blade up there so that I don't put my hand on it and cut my hand. There, that's all the things from the tray I'm going to show you. But now I'm going to show you something else from the toolbox. There we are. I think all of you will recognise that, but I don't know if you know what it's called. It's called a hammer. Hammer. That is a hammer. And we knock things with a hammer like that. And I've got two different sorts of hammers. That's an ordinary hammer. And that, which is bigger, is a claw hammer, because it's got this claw, and we would use that to pull things out of wood. So this is an ordinary hammer, and that's a claw hammer because it has a claw. It's like an animal's claw. Claw hammer. A claw is like an animal's claw. Claw hammer. And we use hammers to knock in, I don't know if you can see that, nails. There we are, let me hold it like that, there, a nail. So we would, if I had something to knock it in, I would be going like that. So that is a nail. It's different from a screw. Its head is smaller and it doesn't have a thread. Lots of nails in there. And I would use the claw hammer to pull nails out of wood. So, hammer and nails. That's how we spell nails. It's the same word as these, the nails on my fingers. It's exactly the same word as these, nails. Different things. I hope my fingernails don't look like that nail, but that's a nail and that's a nail. Now, the last thing I'm going to get out of the toolbox is this. Again, you'll recognise this, and this is a saw. A saw. And you all know that we use a saw to cut wood, to saw wood. So the verb that we would use when we're using a saw is to saw. I saw some wood. I am sawing some wood. Now it's quite complicated because it is not the same as the past tense of the verb to see, because I see with my eyes, and the past tense of to see is saw. But I saw you yesterday is very different from saying I saw some wood. And the past tense, just to make it even more complicated, the past tense of to saw is sawed, S-A-W-E-D. But actually, the past tense of to see is I saw. So you have to remember what you're using. Are you talking about the past tense of seeing someone? Or are you talking about the past tense of using a saw to saw wood? I sawed some wood. So that's a bit complicated, and don't worry about it. Okay, that's all I'm going to show you now from my toolbox. But what I am going to do is to ask you some questions. So for this, you will need a pen and piece of paper, and you need to write the answers down. You can either send them to me via email, or we'll talk about them at next Tuesday's Zoom lesson. And next Tuesday's Zoom lesson will be on Tuesday the 16th of February. So, question number 1. Where do I keep my tools? Where do I keep my tools? Question 2. In the UK, what do we say if we do jobs using tools like this around the house? It's got a special name and there are 3 initial letters. So what do we call it? Question 3. What do we use a screwdriver for? What do we use a screwdriver for? Question number 4. What is the top part of a screw called? The top part. What is it called? Question number 5. Find it. There we are. What is the part of a Stanley knife that we use for cutting called? What is this part called? We use it for cutting. It's got a special name, just this very sharp part. Write that down. Question 6. What do we use to knock nails into wood? Here's a nail. There's a nail. What do we use to knock nails into wood? Question 7. What is this called? What is this called? It's got a special name because of this. What is it called? And this is an easy one. Question 8. What is this called? What is this called? Question 9. What do we do with this? What do we do with this? And question 10. If we're using this, we use a verb. If we're using these, we use a verb. What's the past tense of the verb to do that? And what's the past tense of the verb to use these? That's a really hard question. A really hard question. So that's all for now. If you want to send me your answers, or if you've got any questions, that's the email address. I'll be talking about this some more in the Zoom lesson on the 16th of February, on Tuesday. And if you want to join in with that, you'll have to let me know on this email. So there we are. And what I'm going to say now is that's all for now. Goodbye.